Welcome to Talk. My name is Eddie Marmolejo. Along with my co-host Jaime Moreno, we created this conservative podcast to bring facts to the issues America faces today. Left-wing bashing? That's too easy, and that's not what we do. Instead, Jaime and I tackle the issues, analyze them, and give our opinions through a conservative perspective. So if you want to join two conservative Latinos on this journey, sit back, crank up the volume, and let's talk.
Hi, welcome to Talk. We are your hosts, Jaime Moreno
And Eddie Marmolejo.
In this week's podcast, we will discuss the allegations against former Vice President Joe Biden and what this means for him if he decides to run in the 2020 presidential election. But more importantly, we will analyze the way he is being treated by the media and by Democrats against his allegations versus how Republicans have been treated by the media and their own party when faced with similar accusations. We will also look at President Donald Trump's threat to close the southern border with Mexico in his attempt to stop or halt the large number of migrants from Central America coming to the United States seeking asylum.
So before we begin with those two topics, thank you guys for tuning in once again. But we would like for you to subscribe to our channel. That's by hitting that subscribe button, hitting those little bells so you get notified when the actual videos are uploaded. And if you go to our social platforms, follow us on those pages as well. We appreciate your support. And with that, Jaime, take us away.
So the first topic we're going to discuss today is Joe Biden, right? Former Vice President Joe Biden has recently been under scrutiny because of two women who have came forward and saying that they've been touched by him or they were made to feel uncomfortable around him, right? So the first person who came out saying that Joe Biden made him feel uncomfortable is Lucy Flores, former Assemblywoman, Democrat of Nevada, right? She came forward saying that former Vice President Joe Biden grabbed her shoulders from the back, smelled her hair, and kissed her head.
Oh, wow.
That's all she said. And that made her feel uncomfortable. That made her feel weird. That made her feel kind of creepy.
It was behind her and he did all that?
He did all that, right? He did all that. And not only that, the second woman who came and accused Joe Biden of making her feel uncomfortable tells the same story. Grabs him by the shoulder, smelled their hair, and gave him a kiss. So I don't know if that's a Joe Biden trademark.
I mean, it was two people telling you the same story. That's
similar stories.
Well, similar stories. That just may be the way he greets women.
I mean, I don't greet women that way. Do you greet women that way?
No, I don't. But I'm just saying that's his way. I mean, and it's funny how it's funny.
And that's true. And I'm funny that you say that's his way.
Yeah.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that is Joe Biden's what did she call it? That is called the tactile style of politics, and that's the way Joe Biden greets people, right?
Yeah, that's what.
She even summed these allegations and saying that it's something not so much a sexual harassment, not so much a sexual misconduct, but it's more of a, in the words of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, is it's more of a communication issue, right? That Joe Biden sees this as that he didn't intend to make the women feel uncomfortable. It wasn't his purpose to make him feel comfortable. So Ms. Nancy Pelosi is saying that it's not so much how you intend it, but the way it's received. And on video and on an interview, she is asked about it. And all she said is that it's a communication issue, right? It's a communication issue, and that Joe Biden needs to, change his ways, right? After that, Joe Biden came out, gave a video saying that he apologizes if he has made any woman or any person feel uncomfortable by his tactical style of politics.
Yeah, but
because Joe Biden says that that's the way he likes to reach out, to connect,
I get it.
to be part of his electorate or his constituents, right? And he says that moving forward, he's going to change the way he does things.
Well, it's funny because I don't even know why people are making a big deal about it right now. Actually, I think I have an idea, but in a second I'll get to it. But there's been memes, videos about Joe. I mean, there's even memes now, and it had the Biden 2020. He's hugging the Statue of Liberty, right? But this is in response to the allegations. But even before that, There's the one where he's hugging I don't know, a young woman or he's hugging a woman and he's whispering into her ear. He's like, "Hey, how's it going? Just want you to know your hair smells nice." You know, stuff like that. But I've seen this from years from Joe Biden, and based on what I'm seeing now is there a correlation of these allegations coming out because of his bid or potential bid for 2020? I mean, just look at during the Trump campaign, how many allegations of him mistreating women came out, right? But I mean, he was already a candidate, but you start digging in, and Joe Biden is not just some candidate. Joe Biden had he run in 2016, he was going to be the heir apparent for the DNC as a primal candidate, and of course you had Hillary Clinton and everybody else, but he's a strong candidate, and of course he's going to be threatened by the pool of candidates right now. So I mean,
so you're saying this is more a political attack? It's a strategic attack to discredit him.
I'm leaning that way. The only reason because of the timing. I'm leaning just because of the timing. We have seen this for years now. Uncle Joe, look, he's grabbing that girl again. Like what? And nobody made a fuss about it. And it was actually funny. It was actually
It wasn't funny, but people made a joke out of it.
Well,
Creepy Uncle Joe. Right?
Yeah, so that's what's funny. That's what makes it funny. But now all of a sudden it's starting to become an issue, and it's in a serious allegation because he's going to throw his hat in for 2020. I think it's more of a political move, and rather than a serious allegation. If you get my meaning, I'm not. Of course.
But why wouldn't they say anything in the past? I mean,
that's my whole point. That's my whole point, Jaime. That's what I'm saying.
But even with the overwhelming evidence of pictures and videos,
exactly.
I mean, it's like, for me, it's kind of like the Weinstein story, right? That no one knew that he was sexual assaulting women and raping them and sleeping with them in exchange for a job, right?
Right.
And he was a big Democratic donor. He gave to the DNC. He supported a lot of Democratic candidates, going from even the majority or a lot of the presidential candidates now, like Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. You know, he was a big Democratic donor. Yeah. But no one said anything when he was doing this stuff, right? So until later when a woman actually formally accused him, right? And said that this man assaulted me. Then people were like, well, we need to look into it. So for me, it's a pattern of kind of like, I will get over it. Like, you know, that creepy uncle or that coworker or that friend in a group,
right?
Or, you know, in a large group that it's kind of creepy, but people are just like, this is just the way he is. You'll get over it. Or, you know, it's not that bad. You know, he didn't mean it that way, right? Justification of the time. Until a formal accusation comes around, right? So for me, it's kind of similar because, like, I mean, Joe Biden's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
He's doing this for years, and no one has said anything there, right? As a sitting vice president, as a senator, as a sitting vice president, you know, no one accused him of everything. But if it had been a Republican candidate or a Republican sitting official, the reaction would be different.
Kavanaugh!
All right, the reaction would be, even Kavanaugh. Even, you can say that. Because if Joe Biden was a Republican, even as a sitting senator, he would be asked to be removed from office,
right?
Or he would be pressured that he's a creep, he's a pervert. It would be all over the media accusing him of creepy Uncle Joe Biden if he were a Republican. So for me, it's kind of like that bias in the media, that bias in the Democratic Party that will call out the opposing party's fault, but we won't call out our own, or we won't be as harsh with our own because it's not the intention. That's the communication.
Right, and that's the trend that you're even seeing with the party right now. But the Democratic Party, you have the anti-Semitic claims by Ilhan Omar, and clearly she's apologizing every other week when she started with these comments. And what does the Congress and the Democratic controlled House say? Well, we're just going to vote on a bill where nobody's allowed to say this. They won't call her out, but they will cover it up by saying, well, let's put this out.
Let's make a rule.
And then check this one. This is where it gets twisted. And then 11 Republicans voted no against it because this vote is a sham. This vote is basically telling her you're going to give her a slap on the wrist, not even mention her name. And so she doesn't speak into it again, right? That's the whole thing. And the Democrats, see, those Republicans are right there are racist. Don't even want to vote on this bill. Why are we going to vote for a bill where you don't even call out your own people? That was the whole point of voting against the bill. It wasn't about you being a racist. Like, no, this vote is a sham. Call her out. And then, like you said, right now we're dealing with Joe Biden. It's
no one called him out.
no one called him out. This guy's been hugging and grabbing women for years.
There's videos. Look it up. Google Joe Biden, and you will see pictures, videos. Joe Biden creepy. Joe Biden hugging. Joe Biden kissing. Right. You're gonna see a bunch of videos.
And you're sitting by
even little girls. I think there's a picture there where he's grabbing a girl by. You know, remember how that pastor was accused when he grabbed Ariana Grande?
Yeah.
Remember how everyone made a big deal?
Yeah, I remember that.
He's a pervert. He should be.
But come on, man. But you can't compare Uncle Joe to that pastor, dude. That hand was right there.
Yeah, but there's pictures where Uncle Joe or former Vice President Joe Biden is grabbing a small girl in the same area as that pastor grabbed Ariana Grande.
Oh, wow.
You know,
I haven't seen that one.
We will give links to those pictures below, so stay out for that. You know, and those of us who are listening to our voice podcast, if you go into our Facebook or Instagram page, you will see the link. Well, actually, our YouTube page, our YouTube page, you will see the links of the pictures we're discussing and those videos.
Just follow. Everything will be in there. Like, all the links will be either in our YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. So
go ahead and check that out. But what we're discussing is that no one said anything at the time, right? So if it was a Republican, it would have been all over the news. I mean, even when Donald Trump came out in 2016 where he grabbed the woman inappropriately and got away with it because of his celebrity status, you know, everyone was like, he's a pervert, everyone, he should stop, not run for office, right? Even to this day, people bring that up that he is a pervert, a sexual assault. So he is
the whole Me Too thing.
The whole Me Too thing, that the president's a pervert, we have a pervert election. Even when you mention Kavanaugh, even the accusations against Kavanaugh, even though afterwards, newspapers, if you dig into their under the pile of news, they said that most allegations were uncorroborated. They couldn't come up with proof. There was no evidence, and there was no strength to actually make an accusation because they were either changing the story or they weren't too sure. Right.
So, like, for example, I believe her name was Ford, Mrs. Ford.
Miss
Baisley Ford. She was asked to turn all evidence of her psychological evaluations. Polygraph. The polygraph one is actually the one that cracks me up the most, where they ask her 2 questions. Yeah. And it says, any of these statements false, or are you lying about this? And both were no, and then that's said to be true. But those are ambiguous questions. They're like, are you lying anything about? Like, no, but you have nothing to lie about. I mean, And then there was the other one too, where I believe that her friend was showing the diggling, hit the face, and all that. But I cannot confirm or deny that Kavanaugh was even present. But you had the Spanish Inquisition, the French revolutionaries. I mean, and of course, I'm speaking of Democrats, right? Like marching on the Bastille and the presidential vows and so forth, and just saying, "No, Kavanaugh!" I mean, you had hecklers in the hearing, for Christ's sake.
Oh, that's true. And even at that, at the time, with the Me Too movement, it was the slogan was "Believe all women." Right? Believe all women. If a woman comes and accuses you or sets an accusation, believe them because they're telling the truth. They're brave. In a
no evidence required.
Yeah, no evidence required. If she says it, you have to believe them, right? Now the rhetoric has changed with Joe Biden allegations, right? Mm-hmm. And a big famous one, Miss, where is her name? Miss Lauren Leader, CEO of All In Together, who is a prominent feminist, came out saying that, you know what? We don't have to believe all women, right? We have to look at the investigation. We have to look at the facts, right?
And this is in response to Joe Biden.
This is in response to Joe Biden. Okay. She was, I think, she was interviewed by MSNBC or CBS. I'm not sure which one. Right. But the links below will tell you the interview. And she's like, we don't have to believe all women. There's some women who do tell the truth, and there's women who have come out and has been of false accusations, right? But she believes that Joe Biden didn't really do harm, right? So now we go from a Me Too movement that says believe all women because a Republican or a Republican candidate or a Republican affiliated person did something. So believe all women, they're perverts, they're dirty, they're nasty, they're misogynistic, they're the worst of the worst. But a Democrat, and even as recently as a Virginia lieutenant governor accusations, right? Sexual harassment accusations, right? What happened with those news? It fizzled out.
Yeah.
It fizzled out, right? We don't even hear about what happened to the lieutenant governor. Did he resign from office? No.
I don't know. I honestly didn't keep touch on that.
Well, I'm letting you know that he hasn't resigned from office. He's still a lieutenant governor, even though he was accused of sexual assault, right?
Wow.
But since he's a Democrat, we did make a big deal out of it for a week, and then we forgot about it. But Republicans, you don't forget about it. When it comes to Republicans, you keep bringing it up. You keep reminding people that, you know what, this person's a pervert, this person's a pedophile, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So in Joe Biden's case, if he decides to run in 2020 presidential election, this will hurt him minimally. I think so. Because right now, the tone of the party and a lot of news broadcasters are saying that, well, it's just his tactile style of politics, and he didn't mean to be perverted or creepy. So, you know what? We'll let it slide. Even, Ms. Abrams has come out saying that, you know what? His apology is acceptable, and that, that's what we want from our elected officials, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just transparency, whatever.
Yeah, transparency. So what do you think? Do you think that it will hurt him greatly in 2020?
I have not looked into...
If he decides to run,
If he decides to run, the only person that I've heard speaking in favor of the women, like saying, like, I believe what they're saying, was Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren says that she believes Flores' allegations against the former vice president. It would hurt him if it comes from Bernie. If Bernie starts saying, I believe these women, and which is a perfect tactical political move, because now you know what Uncle Joe brings to the table. You know he's going to be a strong candidate. In the beginning, I don't want to deviate, but in the beginning, I think it's going to be strong. Towards later on in the campaign, when you start fighting each other in the debates, I think you're going to start seeing the true new Democratic Party versus the Obama era Democratic Party, which is two different parties, and that's where you're going to see Uncle Joe.
Yeah, but that's down the road.
That's down the road. So I don't want. But for now, if you start seeing claims made by Sanders and Harris, then I think it will hurt him politically. If you guys have come across any of the comments made by Harris or Bernie regarding Joe Biden in favor of of those making the allegations, let us know, because I haven't looked into it. The only one I was aware about was Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. That's the one we're so far aware of right now.
That's it. So I saw it in favor. So if it comes from Elizabeth Warren, If it comes from Harris...
Pocahontas, right?
Pocahontas, our president has doubted her, but that's her fault. But if Harris and Sanders start speaking up more and more, I think... Yeah, it will get traction. Mm-hmm. It will get how much it would affect. Who knows? Because even I had the Speaker of the House, the leader of the House, right, and the Democrat side, it said it's a communication issue. It's a communication issue. You said it yourself. It's a communication issue. No, it's not a communication issue. For me, it's hilarious because I've seen it for 2 years. But now you're trying to make it into something that it should have been made like that a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. But now it's just like...
So the Me Too movement has actually allowed more women to come out and...
But the Me Too movement, when you said that you can just come out and say, that guy touched me with no evidence, and then you start seeing people like Brett Kavanaugh, who went through Senate hearings for months, and you had hecklers, and you could provide no evidence, but the Me Too movement said they're right. So evidence and moral truths, whatever you want to call it, I mean, that's the debate.
Social justice at all costs.
Social justice at all costs. Thank you. That's something we're for, and that's the double standard we're seeing with Uncle Joe. It's gonna stick to the side of the communication issue unless it starts being said by the top candidates right now, the top contenders. Thank you, in the race, which will be Harris and Sanders. And then I'll put Booker in fourth.
And O'Rourke. Don't forget O'Rourke.
I mean, O'Rourke is like... Isn't O'Rourke...
Well, he has good money right now. I guess finance. He has good finance right now. So
okay, well...
That makes him, in politics, money...
Yeah, I know. But okay, if you were to tell me who could create the most damage... Actually, you know what? Yeah, you're right.
O'Rourke probably won't do that much damage to him.
Yeah, but Beto, I got to call him Beto now. He's Mexican. Beto O'Rourke.
I didn't know Mexicans had O'Rourke as last name.
When I saw that, quick second tangent. I was like, wait, is she a defendant of the San Patricio? If you know who the San Patricios were, they fought for the Mexican army in the Mexican-American War.
Yeah.
No tangent done. But
About that.
yeah, about that. So yeah, if it comes from Harris and if it comes from Sanders, I can see that becoming a really strong issue. And I haven't seen any updates on this today, so I don't know if anything has.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But now let's focus on the treatment, right?
Yeah.
So this is not an actual sexual assault, right?
No.
Joe Biden didn't sexual assault this person. Yeah. They didn't say that they were touched inappropriately in any other, physical bodies, sexually, right? It could be considered sexual harassment in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
This behavior is considered sexual harassment in the workplace, right? You and I go to work. If we were to do what Joe Biden did to any of our female coworkers or any male coworkers, right? We would be fired, right? Because it's considered sexual harassment based on labor and work laws or work policies, right? So we would be fired. Joe Biden's pretty much committed sexual harassment. If you
in the workplace, you would
think about it, right? Yeah, in politics, it's a tactile style.
If you're a Democrat.
If you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
So, for example, like Justice Kavanaugh, he was accused of sexual assault, right? President Donald Trump, in 2016, he made a comment that he's grabbed a woman by her genitalia, and he got away with it, right? Which is sexual assault, right? So that came out. He did say in the video, people came out against him, and many women accused him of similar things.
Right.
We even had women try to say, he sexual assaulted them, right?
Yeah.
So the media, when they portrayed these Republican individuals, right, came out saying that they're guilty, right? They're guilty. Mm-hmm. They're guilty of sexual harassment. They're guilty of sexual assault. They're perverted. They're dirty. They should go to hell. Pretty much, it should pretty much be locked up, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It should be locked up. They're unhealthy. That Justice Kavanaugh, even though Justice Kavanaugh has been on the appellate court, right, the district court for D.C., which is the second ranking district court in the nation, right? One of the top ones and most coveted and most hard to get into. No one said anything when he was nominated and confirmed for that position.
Yeah, it's only when he was trying to get nominated.
So now they came in.
Well, you make my point
it's
again.
It's political, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get here is that is twofold, right? It is a political move to get Joe Biden not to run in 2020 and to have him sit in the sidelines because we don't want males. White and privileged male, according to Democrats and the liberals, right, to run for office because we have a large number of females and minorities now running for office.
Sanders? Oh, Sanders?
Sanders and O'Rourke, I guess, are minorities. I don't know. But that's one of the sense, the feel of the new Democratic Party.
That's what I'm trying to say.
In light of the Me Too and justice
just
right?
the Democratic, the shift within the party itself that's going more left. Joe Biden tends to be, it's going extreme. Joe Biden is more of a moderate. And again, this is probably for another segment, and that's when you're trying to keep that moderate out because that's not the face of the Democratic Party that you want to portray. You want to portray the Bernie Sanders, the Kamala Harris, and the
things like that. And the second fold is that Joe Biden right now is being treated as, well, it's a communication issue. It's not that big of a deal. We'll look into it. He apologized on that video.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And since he apologized on that video, we'll accept that apology, right? And if he were a Republican, obviously it would be off with his head, resign from office.
Special counsel
investigation, maybe. I don't know. He is a pervert. He is against women. He is a misogynistic person, right? So as the days go on, look at the way Joe Biden is being treated, how he's being portrayed in the media.
Right.
For example, last night in Univision, when they talked about it, they showed a picture of Ms. Flores standing next to Joe Biden, and they were just shaking hands, right? He was close to her in the picture, and you'll see it in a lot of news media outlets. He was close to her, right? And when my family members saw that picture, they're like, well, that's not sexual harassment. That doesn't look bad, right? And I was like, all right, now let's Google Joe Biden. Google Joe Biden. And I showed them all the pictures where Joe Biden is seen as being a creepy person. And then they were like, wait, yeah, that totally changes the picture, right?
Right.
The picture showed in the media, showed in Univision last night, showed him in a favorable light, showed Joe Biden in a favorable light, saying that, yeah, these are allegations, maybe she's right, but it's not that bad. When I Googled images and videos of Joe Biden being creepy, my family was just like, okay, why don't they show that on the media, right? Why don't they show that? Because, like I said, he's not a Republican, he's not a conservative, therefore, he shouldn't be bombarded by the media, right?
You don't have an inquisitory base coming after him and all that. But yeah, it's a double standard.
So to wrap this up, there's double standards in the way politicians are being treated of any type of allegation, whether it be a sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Right.
Now, we do condemn any acts of sexual assault. We do condemn any acts of rape. We do condemn any acts of sexual harassment. We do stand by that. If there shouldn't be no excuse and no one should be a victim of any of those types.
But it also should be proven, Jaime. That's the most important thing. It should be proven.
Yes, so it should be proven. Just because someone says they were assaulted, let's investigate and look at the facts, whether or not it actually occurred, right?
And us, honestly, too.
Because we do believe, I think we mentioned here, we do believe in due process. Everyone has the right to due process.
Yeah.
Because, and it's been a typical thing that you're being judged and convicted by the media instead of the facts.
Well, yeah, you're convicted before the facts come, or you reach the conclusion before the facts come, and that's a trend. I mean, Smollett, Kavanaugh, of course, Trump, finally, with
the Virginia governor, the lieutenant governor,
and also the candidates always coming out in support of any allegation, but when they have to backtrack, we have to, and they start stuttering like, we have to wait for the facts.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you wait for that in the first place? That's been my whole beef, as they say out there, with all this is you guys are just jumping to conclusions before the facts are in, and I'm to the point now where if you come with that allegation, man, I'm waiting for the facts to come out. I just can't jump in the train and be like, you're caught.
Yeah, and even we have experience in management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And management, either assistant or manager of a store or of a location, right? And when people come and tell us, employees come and tell us, hey, this person touched me inappropriately, we investigate, right? It is our duty as managers or supervisors, right, to investigate. Just like many supervisors and managers at your workplace or at school have to investigate and find out what happened, what's going on, how did it happen, tell us the events, is there any witnesses to corroborate the incident? If there are, what did they see, and so on and so forth, before you make a formal dismissal or accusation of someone did.
So just come with the facts. People, just when these allegations come to the news, my suggestion is wait for the facts to come out from now on, because as we just said in the Kavanaugh hearings, nobody could provide any evidence, or they decided not to provide any evidence, or they can't confirm. Well, like I said, with Trump, you find out 2 years, there was the evidence hadn't come out. Not the evidence came out, nothing. Wait for the evidence to come out before jumping into conclusions. Because the way the media is handling it, there's going to be that double standard. It depends which side are you on and who you are. So if it's James Woods making, let's put celebrities. If it's James Woods making a claim that somebody made a claim against him that he has sexually assaulted a woman, that everybody's going to go after him. Mm-hmm. If you're holding a Subway sandwich in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., being a black guy being beat up by MAGA hats, it's a modern day lynching, all that. And then, of course, you're in Chicago and all that. So it depends who you are. And that's that double standard.
And what you affiliate with politically, right? So if you're a Democrat or you're more left-leaning or progressive, you'll be treated lightly in face of accusations.
Or
if you're a Republican or conservative or moderate, because even moderates have been attacked, you'll be shown in a negative light.
Right.
So keep that in mind as the newsreels come out, not only on the Joe Biden allegations, but moving forward in any type of allegations or accusations to any public official, public servant, or artist, right?
So let us know what you think. Do you think it's going to hurt Biden if he decides to run in 2020? Who do you think is going to...
And not only that, do you think he's a creep? Do you think that this is overdue, that he's actually a weirdo, a creeper? Is he actually, go look, investigate yourself, and judge for yourself. Is he really a creep? Has he really committed sexual harassment in the past? And now he has to own up to it, right? So not only political, I'm not really concerned about that. My concern is, my concern, is did he really commit sexual harassment, and should he own up to it, and should he be held responsible, just like conservatives are being held accountable for and are investigated and are being made to pay for their actions.
Yeah, so give us your thoughts. Is this a political move, or is this just a double standard, as Ham is pointing out? I'm in the political side because it took this long. He just thinks it should be just investigated for the act itself. But let us know what you guys think. Put those in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with those? You disagree? I mean, do you guys have a third point of view? And
let us know.
Put that out there, or you just agree with what we say? And yeah.
So before we move on, let's do some mentions, some side notes.
Oh yeah. So famous rapper Nipsey Hussle was gunned down in an altercation with a gentleman. I guess he was gunned down, and
outside a store in Los
Angeles. And after that, there was also a vigil that also turned violent. You guys saw it on, I believe, Tuesday night. It was with the vigil.
It was a stampede, right?
It was a stampede right there in Slauson and Crenshaw, where my roots right there, man. Yeah, so Nipsey Hussle, I never knew the guy's music. Unfortunately for me, the first time I ever heard of Nipsey Hussle was when this all occurred. I'm not a big follower of rap. Of the new rap, I used to follow some of the old rap, not the new rap. And when I started reading about Nipsey Hussle, I'm like, really? The man contributed back to his community. Advocated for anti-gang affiliations and so forth. And I'm like, wow, this is really unfortunate. I mean, you had LAPD upset.
Yeah.
Crying out loud, LAPD.
LAPD is upset.
LAPD. So,
and they're hurting because of this loss.
So I am like I said, I can't judge the man by his music. I don't know. I'm judging the man by the character that's being portrayed. And that character is somebody worth noting, because if you're going back to your community and you're helping your community out, you're doing a great job. There was a thing on my Facebook that pointed out that this guy used to work lights outside of in that mall. And he said that Nipsey Hussle would come out and offer him drinks. Like, hey, do your work, and here you go, that's a drink. That's Nipsey Hussle right there. That's a rapper, a real known rapper offering a worker drinks.
Something to drink for his hard work.
I'm like...
So he's a humble man. Yeah. He was a man who gave back to his community, who worked to revitalize and empower his community. He wasn't a rapper who just left the ghetto to become rich and famous, but he became rich and famous to go back and give back to his community. The visual that was played outside his his shop where he was murdered, was full of people who recognized the impact he has been doing and working on his community, right? So we mourn his loss. We mourn that his family and friends who are close to him, our sympathies and our deepest condolences go out to him and his family. Also to all the Nipsey Hussle fans and all those who followed him or who were great contributors to his success, please remember to keep up the work he was doing, right? It is now we need to step up and continue to do that work, continue to spread his message of love, of contribution, of working in our communities, giving back, and working to provide safer communities, right? So let's continue to do his work, even though after he's dead, because he left a legacy for us to continue. So let's do our work on that part. Yeah. We also want to mention that the famous Lady Frijoles.
I don't know how we're going from Nipsey Hussle, who contributed to his community, to this person, but we're going to have to do a little mention.
We will mention
Lady Frijoles.
Yeah, Lady Frijoles.
Her real name is Miriam Gomez. Okay, she was a Honduran migrant. She came in that caravan last year. Became infamously known for her dissing, as they say today, of frijoles. So she was in a I want to say like
a caravan.
And a caravan stop, I guess you want to call it. And they were feeding her, and what she had was basically deep fried beans and a tortilla. Yeah, sorry, I don't say tortilla in this show. She had a tortilla and beans, and she said, look, this is what they feed us, like we're damn pigs. Like, this is literal translation. Like, we're damn pigs. Look, frijoles and tortillas. Like, what the hell is this? Anyways, it became infamous. They had corridos, which are ballads of just that. I mean, and it got so bad that the United States granted her asylum in the United States because they feared, or she feared that she was going to be murdered or attacked or whatever. So they offered her. Anywho, months later come around, and there's a report that on the 26th of March, actually, she attacked a lady by the name of Alba Andrade. So what she did, her and her sister, Myrna Gomez, they basically attacked her. And what they did is that Myrna grabbed a piece of the bed frame and hit her on the shoulder, while Lady Frijoles grabbed the handle of a knife and hit her in the head. And basically now they're in jail. And now they could face deportation. Of course, the Honduran consulate said they're going to provide legal assistance for these two. I am saying why. You know, this is this is a crime. And the worst part, and this is the worst part, Hyman. The lady that's hosting them is supposedly their aunt. Or they call her the aunt.
Wow.
So it's not like, so if she's family, like I said, allegedly, I'm not confirming it. I said the worst part is you're making this claim, right? I'm not believing it, but I'm saying if this.
So they're staying at someone else's house.
Yeah, who's allegedly family, because you're calling her the tia.
Okay.
I mean, if you
they open the doors to you, they provide you shelter, food, so you can stay here while your process is going through.
Yeah, and you start getting in this argument, and it ends up with a bed frame hitting your shoulder and a cuchillo hitting you in the head. Seriously, a knife. What the heck? So now you're in jail. And
so how did this come about? Did they just we're just gonna have to hit her?
No, there was an altercation that was going on.
They had an argument.
They had an argument, and it got louder and louder, and that led to
heated.
And it was on Univision, and I just it started cracking me up because I'm like, she's at it again. What? They gave her the wrong kind of beans again, or like what?
They gave her beans.
They gave her beans and tortillas.
And she was like, no.
Look, I remember when my dad heard this news, and my dad went ballistic because esa hija de su, you know what, and you know what, and you know what. It's the staple food of Mexico, man. It's one of the staple foods of Mexico, beans. And then you have the tortilla. So now the tortilla she didn't care, but the beans. And beans are used in Honduras, for crying out loud. I'm of Honduran descent. My mom cooks black beans, for crying out loud, deep fried beans. So you know what? Well, what does she want at these caravan stops? Does she want a full meal? She want enchiladas with a jamaica, or something? Like, no.
A ranchera.
They're feeding you with what they can feed you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it wasn't a 5-star meal, but you're ungrateful there. And then you're ungrateful with the hostess that's hosting you while you wait to find out if you can actually stay long term and all that. Nah.
Well, what do you guys think? Those are some of our mentions today. Leave a comments below. What do you think? Should Miss Lady Frijoles or Miss Myrna, the famous Lady
Myrna, I know,
should be deported, or should she be given a second chance?
I forgot to mention this. Myrna, I hope goes, because Myrna actually had an order and she missed to go to the immigration court. Univision reported that she already had missed a court date for her case.
She missed a court date.
Yeah, so she might go. Period. Lady Frijoles. We'll see. I can tell what
do you guys think? Yeah. Leave your comments below. Let us know. Should Maria, what's her name? Miriam, or aka Lady Frijoles, be deported back to Honduras, or should be given a second chance to stay in the United States?
Nope.
Given this assault and battery accusations, right?
She's 0-2 with me.
Well, actually, she's been arrested for assault and battery, so it's not even an accusation. All right, so what's going on in the southern border, Eddie?
Okay, so last week, pretty sure you all heard about it by now. President Trump was pretty upset to hear that the mother of all caravans was heading towards the United States. There were estimates of 20,000 in this caravan heading towards the United States. President Trump has been trying to basically stop the flow of these migrants coming into the United States. In the State of the Union, he pointed out to the 900,000 cases that are impending just to try to be heard, and how the detention centers are being overcrowded with people because there's basically no room. And now you have another caravan on the way, and they're just going through Mexico like nothing. So he issued a threat to the Mexican government, and where he said, if you guys don't do anything, I'm gonna shut the border down. You need to do something now. I love trade. Trade is a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. But between trade and the security of my country, I'm going with the security of my country. So he said, I will shut it down, do something about it. Of course, the Mexican government has actually been granting humanitarian visas, looking at individual cases and so forth. But that hasn't been enough. There's still, the migrants are still coming. And the president so issued the threat. So we'll shut it down. This was last Friday leading on to Tuesday. Tuesday, it looked like it was going to be imminent, right? Like I'm shutting it down by the end of the week if this still continues on, and everybody started getting really scared. And I mean, it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen to the economy? And this is what we actually had discussed this before. And by the way, the administration, I want my royalties on this because I did mention that one of the things you should do to send a message to Mexico was to shut down the border. And I'm just saying, I'm putting my royalties out there. I want my royalties on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Eddie did mention months ago here, if you're a constant follower of us, he did mention that, President Donald Trump should close the border with Mexico to stop the large number.
But everybody, of course, the backlash with that, and you pointed this out actually, was the economic consequences, of course, right? Because Mexico is a major port of entry for goods. For agricultural goods as well as auto parts. I don't know if you guys were aware of that. Those are the biggest two contributions or the imports that we get from Mexico. So everybody was saying those are the two items that are going to be impacted the most, fresh produce and auto parts, in addition to border towns and their businesses as well, right? San Isidro, a major outlet for shopping, and there's universities within walking distances of going to San Isidro that people come from Mexico to study here and vice versa. They go over there and the shopping and all and so forth. So they said that's going to impact a lot of the retail stores nearby. NPR put out a report of the first time this was shut down that it impacted about $5.3 million in sales, and that was just for a couple hours. Remember when they shut down the border last year for a couple hours? I think you were stuck in that, weren't you?
No, I wasn't stuck.
Oh, you were stuck? Yeah, so...
No, I would have hopped the fence.
Well, I used to remember. Here's my
I'm just
ID.
kidding.
Here's my ID, man. I'm just cutting line. Want to send me back?
No, I think when they shut down the border, because they shut down the border because remember, a lot of people in the caravan started running towards.
No, I get it. Yeah, but so NPR said it.
When that happened,
NPR,
when that happened, I think
November.
That happened November.
Yeah.
I had to recently just come back from Mexico.
Yeah, because I know.
So I missed it by a couple
You missed
hours.
it, okay? Because I was like, I was like, we were there, but they said for those couple of hours, stores in that area lost about $5.3 million in sales. There's this quote by NPR who interviewed this guy who sells churros right there. And he said, dude, I lost between $3,500 to $4,500 in sales just from those particular shutdowns. And a particular shutdown that day, it was just a couple hours. So imagine if it hadn't gone days and all that. And that's the fear. And like I said, 37%, why did I say 37%? The major import, one of Mexico's major imports is auto parts, and that's 37%. And to go even further back a little bit, $558 billion worth of imports and exports crossed through that port of entry.
Wow, $558 billion.
Yeah, so between U.S. and Mexico,
that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of product. That's a lot of money, right? And it's estimated that the United States exports $243 billion. So it's about half and half, And it's sad to say, but this was after the fact that the media, of course, said that wasn't going to be the biggest threat to this economic crisis if we were to shut the border. You want to know what the biggest threat to that border shutdown was?
What was it?
Just guess.
Economy? I don't know.
Yeah, the economy. Yeah, but what were we going to lose, Jaime? What were we going to lose?
Well, if we shut the southern border, we're going to lose the most valuable, most delicious item we can afford here in the United States, and that's the aguacate, or avocado in English.
Mm-hmm. I want to see where this is from. Avoterra. I wonder if this is from Mexico. Yeah, Mexican avocado. Yeah, it's right there in the lid. It's a Mexican avocado.
Avocado from Mexico. So the importation of avocados will be devastated.
Yeah, avogeddon.
We will lose our most valuable. What is this? A fruit? Vegetable?
No,
fruit. It's a fruit.
Well,
Well, whatever it is,
we're
gonna lose this.
Hey,
All right,
man,
this is important importation to the United States because
you know
in
how much
California,
work this is gonna be in about a couple
in
days.
California, we don't grow avocados at all. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, we don't have avocados in Marietta and Temecula for crying out loud.
I mean, California avocados are ew, fuchi.
Anyway, so I started laughing. The only reason I bring the avocados because I started laughing because that was on major every single news outlet that particular night, Tuesday night. oh my God, we're going to lose our avocados and this and they're like, really? So when you're making the argument for border security, your biggest concern is that you're going to run out of avocados. It wasn't this what I'm telling you now. It wasn't the imports of auto parts. It wasn't the imports of fresh fruits and vegetables. It was this guy. And that if you frequently eat at Chipotle, you know your $2 scoop of guac is probably going to go up to $4.
Ooh,
oh my good. Lord, have mercy. Right? So, no, but when that threat came out, of course, there was a lot of people opposing it, of course, for various economic reasons. I said shut it down just to send a political message, but the proponents started coming out more and more against it.
So what's the effect? So if President Donald Trump closes the southern border,
right?
What's the goal with that? What's the goal of closing the border? What's the ultimate goal?
Okay, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing,
in his idea,
shutting down the border is a way to stop the migrants from coming. Stop it. Just say you're not going to cross. Period.
That's his goal.
That's his goal. The reality of that is they're not going to stop.
Yeah, and I agree.
You're not going to stop because you're only stopping the legal port of entry. Mm-hmm. What happens when you go around the legal port of entry? How are you going to stop them there? You're overwhelmed. Okay, this is not 300 people you're stopping. It's not 700 people, which you stopped earlier in February. It's estimated 20,000. Out of that 20,000 that gets here at once, I have no idea. So how are you going to stop that? You got to understand that they're not going to stop. Their goal is to reach U.S. soil, claim asylum, because that's what they were told in these caravans. If you reach U.S. soil, you can claim asylum. They have to keep you there, and so on and so forth. And you're seeing the response to that. So that's his aim, right? To stop it. In reality, is he going to stop it? No. But
yeah, because currently the way they're coming in, the caravans coming in illegally is through jumping the fence. And you've seen the images recently that they're going under fences, under waterways, rivers, jumping the fence, and this is just running across the land. Just as long as they hop over that fence and they make it to the United States, they can seek asylum. Right. So they're not doing that at a port of entry. They're not doing that
where there's minimal security or no fencing and all that.
Yeah.
But for me, Jaime, when I'm looking at this situation, and I said, shut the border down. It wasn't really to stop the caravan. It's to send a message to Mexico to have them understand that you got to do something in your southern border. You want, as the United States, as your trading partner, you got to help us out a little bit. We're overwhelmed over here. And all you're doing is humanitarian visas. That's not enough. That's not stopping these people from coming. But the foreign minister of Mexico, Marcelo Ebrard, said the United States does not dictate immigration policy in Mexico. We're going to keep...
Well, that's true because it's a foreign country.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the response you're getting, though. And that's what I think where the president is frustrated, where the president is saying, well, that's okay. You're supposed to be our partner. Like, you're in the southern border. We're having issues here. And then, of course, you have incidents where the Trump base is getting frustrated, too. We have incidents of illegal immigrants attacking people, murdering people, and so forth. Not saying that's what's in this caravan. I don't know any of these people. But if you're overwhelmed in detention centers, the Democrats have finally agreed we have a crisis at the border. You just want to stick to the humanitarian side. Fine, if that's your way to agree that we have a crisis in the border. But there's a crisis in the border.
Remember, they said there was no crisis.
There's no crisis.
Remember,
no, it's all a sham.
It's all a sham. Yeah. They said that Donald Trump was just making up this crisis.
Yeah,
and it all was made up, and he's just crazy. Now they're saying, oh, there is a crisis, and there is a humanitarian crisis. So, I mean, even the rhetoric in the mass media is changing in terms of this migration coming to the United States. It's
changing to an agreement based on what I see, but they don't want to agree to
admit
that they were wrong.
That they were wrong.
Of course
and
they're
that
not.
They just, downplayed Trump's claim.
Right.
Now, yes, right now we hear reports that CBP is already at capacity. They can't hold people. Over capacity. We have images of people being caged or being detained under bridges, behind caged.
Right. If you seen that,
yeah, you're in detention. If you don't have the money to house them in a building, has to be one way to keep them while you process their paperwork, while you process their names, while you get who they are, where they come from, what do they want in the United States, and then once you get all documentation, because you need documentation before you get to the court. So, you can't just be like, well, we'll let you loose and then come back.
And that's another issue. The courts is another issue too. The courts is another issue. The courts are saying they're overwhelmed. And they're overwhelmed too, and they're feeling restrained by the Department of Justice. That's another topic I want to touch in another segment. But that immigration courts feel that the Department of Justice is overwhelming them and understaffing them, to put it that way.
Yeah, but that's just the judicial part. But we're talking about the physical number, because the complaint by the mass media isn't how backlogged the court is. The complaint by the mass media is, look at the living conditions, or look at where they have these people. They're like animals.
But
they're being treated as dogs. They're being treated as, pretty much animals, right? Because of where they're at, where they're staying, and then you have the images of them, having their sad face and all that. Yeah, because they haven't gotten their paperwork. They haven't gotten their. Well, if you understand the way the process goes, is that when you come in the United States illegally, the first thing they do is they grab you, they clean you up, and they take your detention, and then they go and interview you. They say who you are, what's your name, where you're from, who are your family members. Mm-hmm. They get a history from you, where you come from, what's your purpose here. Right. Are you affiliated with terrorism? Are you affiliated with drug cartels? Are you here out of your own will? Are you being forced to be here? They got to go through all those interview questions and all that information. Once you get all the information, and you're seeking asylum, okay, they're going to grab all the information, your paperwork, where you're going to go at, who's going to house you, do you know anybody in the United States where we can locate you, so on and so forth.
Right. Well, the numbers are staggering.
All that takes time. While that's being done, they need to be housed somewhere. They need to be detained somewhere.
Yeah, like Lady Frijoles. She beat up her.
Well, Lady Frijoles is already out of detention, right? So that means they got her information, they got everything where she's at.
Well, she's out with
her host.
That was expedited, but I'm talking, and this is what I'm telling you.
No, I'm talking about once you enter the United States illegally and you touch ground, this is the process.
Asylum. Yeah,
but this is the process. Yeah. You don't automatically go with your host. You don't automatically go there. No. You go to find out who you are.
Yeah.
Lady Frijoles is with her host because she filled out her information. She gave all her contacts. She found family members. That's why she's out and about.
Yeah, again.
These people who are still detained are not going to go out and about until we get all those requisites before they be released. Right. So they will be in those detentions for some quiet time until we figure out.
But why are they in the detentions?
Because they're in the United States illegally.
I get that. But why are they still in detention centers? This is what I'm trying to get to.
They're still in detention centers because they haven't got to them. Majority hasn't got to them.
Why haven't they got to them?
Because it's backlogged.
By what court?
No, not by court. It's by processing.
By processing, right?
But the processing, Border Patrol.
Yeah, and the processing has to go then to if you're claiming asylum. I'm going by asylum seekers. I'm not going by detainees that just crossed the border illegally. My argument is for the asylum seekers. If you have to go to a court to present your case and they're telling you that's an issue, that's one of the issues.
Yeah, that's if they give you asylum. What I'm talking about is why they're being caged up now.
Of course, because
you have to get information from them. You have to get processed.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't have any disease with you. Make sure you're well
all
fed.
that
Stuff.
But you're looking at
that. That's why. That's why I said the process. As once you get into the United States, before you're released to a court date, there's a process in between that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that, but it's. I'm just saying there's so many issues. One is the courts. One is the process and all that, and then you're bringing in more people. Mm-hmm. Like, what the heck is going on?
So it's overwhelming. It's a lot.
It's not that people, viewers, listeners, it's not that we're anti-immigration or anti-illegal immigration, or we're not anti-immigration. We're saying we have an issue. We're trying to take care of these people. It's too much. There's not enough personnel first of all, there's not enough space. Then there's not enough personnel. Then there's not enough legal personnel. So it's overwhelming. And I think that frustration is bringing the president to say, Congress is not helping us out. Mexico's not helping us out. So I got to do something because CBP is telling me all these things that's going on the border, and we're still talking about it. So I'll say shut down the border. And I said that, yeah, you have to send it. But for me, it's more of a political message to Mexico.
Yeah, it's a political message.
I will hurt economically, but you're going to hurt economically too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you import parts, but I don't care if you're my trading partner. I more care about the security. You need to do something in your country to stop these people from just crossing freely and then reaching the United States border. I don't have enough personnel. I don't have enough space. I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, it's all over CNN, MSNBC, and so forth. I don't have enough space. Help me out. And what is Brad said, you don't dictate immigration policy in Mexico. Yeah, so
we understand that. But the thing is that, and not only is Mexico not helping out with this overreach, the mass media and the major media players aren't helping out either. They're not
going to help out Trump on immigration, bro.
I sympathize with the migrant caravan too and their need to come to the United States. We're not saying that we don't believe them, but they're portraying Trump as they're making them heroes, right? They're making them heroes to the point where like, let's let them in the United States. They have the right to be in the United States.
I think the empathy is more. I think it's more. They're victimizing them in response to Trump's policy.
The victims in certain port, but if you tell them they cross, the rhetoric is they cross through all these lands, they sacrifice to come to the United States. They should come here because they're here to work. Yeah. They're here to provide for the family.
That's what I'm saying. You're victim. You're giving them you're portraying them as victims.
The victim would be more
refugees.
The victim would be more like, oh, poor for them. Look how much they suffer. Not so much.
Really? Because that's what I see from. That's what I've seen from Univision and Telemundo.
Nah, the Univision and Telemundo stuff is not even. They're not even saying they're victims. They're saying they're here to work and it should be allowed. They have a right to be here because they're people who are looking out for their families.
I will have to disagree with that because
it's kind of like a heroic journey.
Like a heroic. I can get
it's
you
a heroic
that,
journey to get to the United States. They're here. They're not criminals. They're here to work.
No. But what I keep hearing is these poor people. This is all I'm hearing. And yes, they're poor. Yes, they're in terrible conditions. But what I keep hearing is these poor people come to the United States. They have the right to be here in the United States. What's his name? Gillibrand says, and then if you're here in the United States, you have the right to benefits and all that. That's a separate argument. But this is what I'm telling you. Just because of who you are, you're an asylum seeker, you're a refugee, whatever you want to classify yourself as. For me, is that kind of rhetoric, and in addition to what you're saying, is that's what's creating the conflict by the mass media. And even on social platforms where people are saying, "Oh no, these poor people." That's all I keep seeing. I'm not just saying it out of thin blue. That's what I'm saying. These poor people. These people travel hundreds of miles, and I feel for them. Like you said, I feel for them too. They have to leave your home to seek a better life. I mean, the crime rates in Honduras, they've gone down, but they're still pretty high. Salvador crime rates are still high. Guatemala crime rates are still high. Poverty rates let me just give you the poverty rates in these countries real quick. Poverty rates.
They're pretty high, aren't they?
Poverty rates. Honduras 66%. Over half of the population is in poverty.
That's a
Salvador 36%. Guatemala 59%. This was just in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it's. I'm not saying that it's. I don't understand why they're coming. I understand perfectly why they're coming. But
they're coming to. They're exiting. But the thing is, the demand, the force for entry into the United States,
it's too much.
They want to be in the United States. They're forcing themselves in the United States. You even see the images, and you can look at the images yourselves. Just look at the images.
Just go to our previous podcast. They're in there.
Mute it. Don't look at the commentary by news. Just mute it and just look at the images. Right? Yeah. They're forcing themselves in here. They're risking their own lives and the lives of their children to come into the United States illegally by hopping fences, going under rivers, going under fences, digging holes, jumping, running, crossing deserts. All these things just to get in the United States for work, right? And then, you have the media saying, in some aspects, saying they're victims and they should deserve to be in the United States. Right. In other instances, they make them as heroic heroes who provide for the U.S. economy, provide for GDP, that are the backbone of American labor. There are heroes that we need here in the United States. We shouldn't condemn them. And then that goes out to around the world globally, and people that are still in Honduras or in Central America or in Mexico who haven't made the cross, all of a sudden say, well, if they're making it and they're getting their asylum, maybe I should go too. Yeah. I should get asylum too. I should be able to get, be not let, but be accepted into the United States. So it's a mixture of the rhetoric against Trump.
Right.
It's a mixture of the media portraying them as the right to be in the United States. It's a mixture of the court system saying, you know what, they have the right to claim asylum here in the United States, which they do, which we don't negate it, but the way they're doing it should not be used against them in their claim, right? If they hop illegally, then that's fine. Let them hop illegally. They don't need to do it by legal means. Remember how Trump said that go to the port of entry, apply, seek. There,
but that became problematic.
That became problematic because it's a long line.
It's a long line,
right? And there's a waiting list. Oh my God! God forbid there's a waiting list.
And then Tijuana, I couldn't remember that when we're talking about Tijuana. I mean, what was the $30,000 a day per person?
It was $30,000
a day, right? So, and they're like, well, we don't have the money. I mean, we're only a city, and then he called the UN and so forth. So when we go back to the argument of, for me, closing the border, it's send that message to Mexico. Yes, you're going to have economic impact. immediate economic impact. But like he said, if he was serious about it, and when he said it on Tuesday, if it's between trade and security, I'm taking security. And security, of course, and to stop that. But today, of course, he's kind of backing off. The president.
Yeah, he's backing off.
The president
because they're making it look like what's the GDP loss?
Okay, so there was
48%.
Yeah, so
48% of GDP. That's a lot.
So
that's
that's
half our entire economy. I mean, Mexico doesn't have that much power, does it?
No. So really quick.
So can you explain to us where that 48% came from?
So really quick, Jaime is referring to a study done by Homeland Security back in 2011, and the study basically looked at it. I'm gonna do this really quick. It said that if you shut down the border for a whole year and you stop 95% of all imports, not just bottleneck imports, and what I mean by bottleneck imports in accordance with the study is things like oil, mining minerals, and all that stuff. If you just shut that down for a whole year, your GDP loss will be 48%.
That's if you close everything.
95%. But every single port of entry.
So let's bring it down, right? 95% of all ports means everything. So not just Mexico. So it's including imports coming from China,
anywhere,
imports coming from Germany, from Canada, right? 95% of all our imports is shut down and closed.
Shut down, yeah. So they said so if you shut that down, your GDP loss will be around 48%.
That's half our
economy. But if you just did this on essential bottleneck supplies like.
Well, we don't really care about the bottleneck supplies.
No. But I'm saying that's where you get the 11% GDP loss. You know what I mean? That's what.
But that's not what the CBS reported 48%. A lot of
CBS. Yeah.
And a lot of mass media are reporting 48%.
Yeah.
So where's the 48% coming from?
So the 48% is stuff like this.
You just said, right?
This is like
no,
this.
That's not 48%.
No, stuff like this. It's so if you stop buying
avocados, really?
Fresh fruits, because Jaime, they're the leading. I mean,
our largest import from Mexico is avocados,
jitomates, and all that stuff that we as Latinos probably have. Well, you go look at my kitchen, I have all that. You know, for crying out loud, this is from Mexico. So the CBS reported that, and they said that look, there's a study being done as for a whole year effect, and I hope. Had the president gone, it would have been a whole for a whole year, but had he gone down with it, right, it would have been about a 48% loss for GDP. But of course, the title says, look, there's a study, and then you can lose 48% of the economy.
Yeah, so they mislead the numbers. They exaggerated.
Yeah.
So what's the loss if President Donald Trump does close the southern border? What is the economic effect?
The economic effect and
how much does that affect?
Well, it's going to affect you in two industries. I don't know. I'm going to put this: agricultural and auto parts. And auto parts, of course, components, automakers here. That's the big loss you're gonna have. I don't have the exact figure, but this is what he backed up, and this is what he even said today. That the auto industry is the whole ball game. So if I shut down the border right now, we're not ready for that. And even now when he backed off on the threat of shutting down the border, he said, look, first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put tariffs on your imports if you don't do this within a year. So now they're calling it the 1-year warning. The 1-year warning is if you don't shut down the border in a year, if you don't stop this within a year or we see improvement, you will have tariffs on your auto parts. If the tariffs don't work, then I'm going to shut the border down. But 1 year. You see what I'm saying? The study said 1 year. I'm not, of course, correlation, causation, right? But 1 year. So still a flow of parts.
So immediately there's not going to be no consequences. It's giving them a 1-year warning.
Just a 1 year warning.
After a year, if nothing is done.
And then it's still, first is tariffs. And then tariffs for how long? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's like for me, it was like an easy back off because the economic impact would have been.
On the auto industry.
Yeah, and on the agriculture industry.
And if you guys remember, the auto industry has been suffering. The U.S. auto industry has been suffering for quite some time. If you guys remember in 2008, 2007 and 2008, the U.S. government, not the U.S. government, we, the taxpayers, you and me and you who paid taxes, bailed out the auto industry, right? Because they were going on bankruptcy. So that's the way, so that's in effect them. The auto industry has been affected. So just a little background on the auto industry. So that's in effect. So if Donald Trump does close, now he's backed away. But now if he would have closed the border, the immediate impact would have been just the local
The local, the auto industry, and the agriculture industry.
Avocado. So avocado would have been from like what $1.60.
Yeah,
to
there was a
$2?
funny report. I saw this on Univision. Actually, it was on Telemundo, excuse me. And he said, and this is of course, it was a mom and pop supermarket, and one of the mom and pop supermarkets. What was it?
No, I think I seen the report.
Yeah, the report, and he said, well, and the sign says 69 cents. This is what I kind of laughed because of the next price. He said, well, if it goes down the board, how much are we going to raise up the price? Yeah, probably, like $1.09 per avocado. Bro, I go to Ralph's right now and pay that for freaking But stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was this other mom and pop shop, and I saw this today on the Univision website, and they said that this is a mom and pop shop in Houston. And they said 40% of their agricultural products they actually buy from Mexico directly because it's just right across the border where they're at.
That's a mom and pop shop.
That's a mom and pop shop. And they said, well, we just opened this store and, half of our product comes from Mexico. It's going to affect our sales and so forth. So but I think the administration, the frustration came out and it was kind of impulsive, right? But I understand why. And I would have supported too if he said shut it down, like I said, for the message. But I think when you start looking at it and the immediate impact on border town commerce, on
small business owners,
on auto industry, he said, "All right, let's strategize this." And I think Thursday is the strategy. When you see the strategy of 1 year warning, no solution. Okay, tariffs, no solution. Then shut it down. And I believe that's pretty well thought out strategy. Of course, if 1 year from now, so by next April, if this comes around again, and if it comes back around again, and the president then starts backing off again, are you gonna start? I'm like, really, dude? What more are you gonna do?
So, what do you guys think? He's not
shutting it down. Okay, so let's put it this way.
If the option comes back again,
well, it's
should he shut it down?
Well, our viewers and our listeners, when I put that poll,
that's right. You guys did do the poll. That's right.
76% said yes.
Close the border, right?
Close the border. And then the other people, of course, said no.
How much percent of it?
76.
76% of you guys said to close the border.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You guys really don't want. You guys are really tired of it too.
We're tired of it too, man. That's how we roll right here, man.
So to sum up the discussion about the border security, about border,
right?
Shutting the border is not really going to stop the influx of immigrants.
No. So like I said, it's not
more
of
a political message.
I get that's what
or pressure, right?
Pressure, political pressure, yes, on Mexico, and that's how I view it. And that's why I would have supported it because Guatemala is, we got Jorge Ramos on Anderson Cooper saying it's easy to cross from Guatemala into Mexico. You got to go through the river or the bridges are not really manned or they're not really fenced up. And so it's easy to cross from Guatemala into Mexico. So to put that pressure, that's the only reason I will support. And not a diss at you guys that work in the auto industry or in the agriculture industry. It's just that I believe you have to put some political pressure on Mexico to say, you know what, humanitarian visas are not enough. And this is what I've been telling all you guys here and everybody who's listening. Mm-hmm. The Honduran and Central American migrants or the migrants from the Northern Triangle are not there to stay in Mexico.
No.
Their final destination is the United States of America, not the United States of Mexico. And yes, that's what Mexico is actually called for all you that did not know that. Mm-hmm. So anywho, if nothing's really being done, why not send the message? I hope he doesn't shut it down for a year for crying out loud. But don't shut it down for a year, but send the message. And I believe that the 1 year warning is actually a better alternative than to say, let's just shut it down. Immediately. Because I believe, I get the frustration, I get the impulse of it, but of course the economic backlash you were going to get was,
Well, it's not going to be, so the economic backlash is not a large number of like 48%. It's going to probably be like,
no, because that
like in the low numbers,
yeah, that 48%,
the single digits.
Yeah, that 48%, once again, if you guys missed it, is for, and this is, of course, in a study, was for a year long.
But not with Mexico. See, the clarity here is that this study that CBS and the mass media is reporting is not saying that if you close the border with Mexico,
no, this is all ports of entry.
This is the entire import.
So let's
so there's no report right now saying if we close the border with Mexico, how much of it will
affect. So let's just make a hypothetical here. How many borders we have if we draw out the United States? southern border, Mexico, Pacific border, Atlantic border, northern border with Canada. So that's four spots there you have ports of entry through, right?
Yeah, we get it.
So if anything, you want to make the math, 25%?
Of Mexico?
No, GDP loss.
That's still a high number.
Still a high number. Okay, so it's 25% if we just keep Mexico, and then divide that by 2, because the only two items that they're really importing to the United States is auto parts and agriculture.
It's going to be a single digit, not even a
12.5.
Not even 12.
Well, if you divide it by 2, 25 divided by 2.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I still think that the number that affects GDP or
no, of course, hypothetical. I could be totally
lower
wrong.
than 12%. I think it's going to be like not even 1% of the economy.
Oh.
I don't know. That's my idea. I could be wrong, but
I know. Like I said,
we don't have any studies on what the impact is if we stop.
And Jaime's correct.
With
I
Mexico.
I should have been more clear. Jaime's correct. The study does not just point out Mexico. The study points out all ports of entry, and 95% of imports stopped coming into the United States. Does not specify Mexico. You are correct on that.
President Donald Trump wants to stop
the
Mexico border, not all borders, just Mexico. And we haven't found any studies.
I haven't found. So if you guys know of any, please let us know. Put links in the comment section. Send us a message on MM Talk via Facebook or Instagram. Send us, hey Eddie, you might want to take a look at this study. It probably could help you out in your analysis of the situation, and I would happily look at it.
Yeah, we'll be happy to look at it because we don't know the specific numbers for the specific shutting down of Mexico. Right. They say a large number, but we don't think Mexico doesn't have that much.
Yeah.
To say 48% is to say Mexico has more economic power over the United States than China.
Yeah.
And China is like our biggest rival right now. So it's like
of course. So the way it was bolded in the article is like, there was a study that put out the catastrophe of shutting down the border for a whole year, and it's 40%. The study didn't say that the study was for all imports. It was in Mexico. So I think that report would have been more effective if they would have said what the loss would be if it was shut down, broken down even by week, day, week, month, year. And
specifically to Mexico, right? Because that's the topic that President Trump is talking about.
Yes.
Well, that concludes today's podcast for the week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you all you out there who are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on our podcast. Please remember to subscribe, like our page, give us your feedback below. Let us know what you think. Point out some arguments that we need to discuss or what your opinion is. Like we said, did Joe Biden commit sexual harassment in the past? Is he guilty, yes or no? And also, do you think that closing the southern border will effectively reduce the number of illegal immigrants coming to the United States? And if so, how much of an impact will it cause? So don't forget to comment below. Subscribe to us for next week. Remember, this is MM Talk. We are your hosts, Jaime Moreno.
And Eddie Marmolejo.
And remember, we're tired of it too.
Jaime and I would like to thank you all for tuning into our podcast this week. If this is your first time tuning into MM Talk and you like the show, we invite you to come back every Thursday. Just hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you're notified where videos are up. Also, do not forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for any additional notifications. This is MM Talk, and remember, we're tired of it too.